welcome to our EUROCUP-3 YouTube channel. Welcome to Portugal, welcome to Autodromo Fernanda Pires da Silva in Estoril, where we'll experience the 6th round of the season. First race will start in just a few minutes. The championship is tighter than ever, with only 7 points separating the leader, Esteban Mazon, who starts in pole position. From the second place, Sebastian Ogier starting in P3, and the only driver who has scored points in every race. Mari Boya is also fighting for the points, with only 19-point difference from the leader. The temperature is really high. Also, the track is very high, but we will expect a very exciting race. Teams are ready, the drivers are ready, so now it's time to my colleague to continue giving you all the details of this first race of the journey.
It's getting towards the second half of the season and the business end, where we start to decide who will be the first ever EuroCup-3 champion after the season series launched and began this year. Here we are in Portugal in very hot ambient and track conditions, and with a grid that's looking superb. We are getting set to get this first of 2 races underway very shortly. Scott Woodward's here in the commentary box, delighted to give you all the action and guide you through it. And the main story from qualifying is championship leader Esteban Mazon is back on form, because he takes pole position in qualifying earlier on by 3.5 tenths of a second, and his main aim is going to simply be to try and banish the bad memories of the previous round at Jerez, because he double DNF'd in that weekend. And because of that, his championship lead has been slashed all the way down to just 7 points coming into the weekend here at Estoril, ahead of Sebastian Ogier. Mari Boya, who was looking quick in practice earlier on this morning, back in 3rd. So as we get set for our first of 2 races here this weekend in Portugal, here's the grid. Esteban Mazon starts on pole alongside Francesco Barasci on the front row, and all Campos front row. Then it's Sebastian Ogier and Mari Boya, 2nd and 3rd in the championship on the 2nd row of the grid. Then it is Nick Gilks from Canada and Tassanapol Inthropuvasak on the 3rd row, Bruno Del Pino and Dario Cabanelles on row 4 for Santaloc, and Jose Antonio Garfias and Miron Pingasov rounding out the top 10. Daniel Mavlyutov and Suleiman Zamfari are on row 6 alongside Sebastian Graveland and Javier Segura quite far down the order in the Polo Motorsport machine with 14th, and Emerson Fittipaldi, Jorge Campos and Daniel Mavlyutov round out the 17 cars that will take the start here this weekend. So, as the drivers try to keep cool, we can give you an idea of just how hot it was. Temperatures in the previous Spanish F4 race were quite hot as well. Current ambient temperatures cooled a tiny bit, 33 degrees, but the track temperature is still 46 degrees out there this afternoon. Really hot temperatures. These drivers are all set to try and cope with them as best as possible. Signal for the grid has been given, which means all personnel are making their way off. And then, of course, the green flag will be given to set them off on their formation lap. Or can't really call it a warm-up lap, because it's warm enough out there here in Portugal. But we get set to see if Esteban Mazon can get back to winning ways. He has 4 wins to his credit coming into the weekend, where he dominated the weekends at Aragon and Zandvoort, and had some really contrasting fortunes where he double DNF'd at Jerez, as we mentioned. Before then, he'd only finished off the podium twice, and that was in both races at Spa. So the 7-point lead over Sebastian Ogier. Starting ahead of them is certainly going to work. The 2 MP Motorsport machines are certainly going to try and push as hard as they can to make this one work as much as possible. So the red lights are about to come off in the second place to set them off onto their formation lap. And as they make their way off onto the formation lap now, the drivers again do weave from side to side just to get some temperature and some pressures up in the brakes and up in the tyres as much as possible. Try and get the brakes up towards an optimum temperature. Some do say that it's even better to brake hard, disperse the heat through the tyres rather than to weave from side to side, but side to side is something that typically most drivers do to keep temperatures up. Get set for this first race. Give you a quick idea again of where we are in terms of the championship. So as you mentioned, Esteban Mazon comes into the weekend having had his championship lead severely slashed after his 2 DNFs at Jerez. It means he leads by 7 points on 151 for Sebastian Ogier, the Dane, on 144. Next up is Mari Boya, the Spaniard, on 132. Then Francesco Barasci, who starts on the front row of this first race in 4th in the points. He's one of the last of the drivers that have got into triple figures in terms of points. Then we move down to 5th, which is Jose Garfias, the Mexican. Javier Segura, 16 points. Really has his work cut out, starting way back on the 7th row of the grid. And then to Sanapol Intrapuvasak, who's got plenty of experience, particularly racing in British circles, particularly I think in the likes of the sort of GB3, GB4 scene, or what was British F3 in many cases. And then we have Bruno Pino in 8th in points on 61. And Nicolas Solov, well, he did 2 races at Jerez. And he's a regular FIA Formula 3 driver, but he did 2 races and was registered with the championship and came away with a couple of second places, and that actually puts him straight to 9th in the championship, quite amusingly. And then we have the Moroccan Suleiman Zamfari, who rounds out the top 10. He is on 37 points. To make the way around to the end of the formation lap. Chance now for Masson to really put himself back on track for his bid for the title, but he knows that he cannot afford any more slip-ups, particularly when he has got Francesco Braschi right next to him, and of course his 2 main championship rivals on the 2nd row of the grid. Braschi might be his teammate, but there might not be any friendliness between them, at least on track, because off track they may well be friends and teammates, but to each other on track, to each other they're just another rival. See that Esteban Masson just and that's to get some last minute heat and pressure into the tyres as much as possible before he parks up on pole position, which is on driver's left on the outside of the circuit. And pulling in alongside him will be Francesco Braschi. And then of course watch out for the 2 cars in the mix that will be from the 2nd row of the grid. The MP Motorsport drivers in orange and black of Sebastian Ergaard and Mari Boya. You can see Esteban Masson's car just angled slightly towards the inside of the circuit to hold on. The last few cars are in position. We are set then, waiting for the green flag at the back for race 1 of 2 of the weekend here in Estoril in Portugal. In high temperatures, Esteban Masson looking for redemption after he missed out on victory last time out. Race 1 of the weekend, 30 minutes plus 1 lap. The 5 lights are on, and EUROCUP-3 at Estoril is go. It's a strong start for Masson, sweeps across to cover his teammate, and a good start for the 2 MP Motorsport pair of Boyer and Ergaard. They charge down towards curve 1 for the first time, and it will be Masson who leads it. Braschi in 2nd place, but holding around the outside as Ergaard looks for 2nd place. Boyer's trying to pick himself up into 4th position if he can, out of curve 2 for the first time, and it's still Masson that leads. It's still Campos 1-2, MP Motorsport 3-4, and Nick Jilks holds up to 5th ahead of Sanapol for Pruvasak. Garfias still in 7th place. They make their way out through Lamy Corner. And now up the hill again for the first time of asking. 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Now let's just see what these guys have in store for us this afternoon. Masson trying to make a break already. Braschi in 2nd place. Then the 2 MP Motorsport cars from that 2nd row of the grid. From Ergaard and then from Boyer. And a good start for Nick Jilks. He's got plenty of experience running in the UK, particularly in Formula 4 1600, and also both in the UK and also in similar racing in his native Canada. And his sister Megan Jilks, also quite a successful single-seater racer in her own right too. Make their way out of the right-hander at Aurelia and into the Gancho chicane, and that was Boyer taking a lot of curb as he tried to keep up with Ergaard on the exit, but Masson has got a clear gap here of 1.1 seconds as they turn their way out through the S's. Side-by-side position here, that was Jilks under threat. Then from Intrapuvasak, and running wide is the Thai driver. Over the gravel he goes. He's lost 2 or 3 spots as a result of that. A little bit too ambitious in towards the end of the S's. That's the end of lap number 1. It will be Esteban Masson who leads the way, the championship leader in front from Francesco Braschi in 2nd place. Ergaard and Boyer, it's the MP Motorsport 3-4. They're scrapping amongst each other. This looks like it's Palou and Campos cars in the mix as well. There's one of the Sansalot cars in there too. That's Cabanellas trying to go around the outside of Garfias. And also in there too, looks like it's Pingasov and Intrapuvasak. Intrapuvasak has got back past Pingasov by the looks of it, back into 9th. So plenty of action going on here on this opening lap. Let's see if he can try and recover here. Some dives up the inside, some battling amongst some of the GRS cars involved there. I think that's possibly, try and pick out who that is. Here's a replay of the start. Clean getaway from the first couple of rows. Then immediately Masson went off to cover his teammate. The 2 MP Motorsport cars slotted into line. You can see there already Ergaard darting to the outside to try and make that move on the outside line. And then just behind there was more in the mix. This was Intrapuvasak's attempt at making a pass on Nick Gilks and just ran way too deep into the corner, skipped over the gravel, and he rejoins back in what was 10th position. So he's got some recovery work to do in these 30 minutes. As the leaders make their way out through the exit of the Gancho chicane, and now onto the end of another lap. This will be onto the end of lap 2. And Masson now trying to pull that gap out. He's got it out to around about 1.4, 1.5 seconds, and this is the Esteban Masson we've known quite throughout the season. He had a bit of an off weekend, a blip on the radar in Jerez, but thankfully he's got himself back in the groove and he's back with good pace. So battles here then, you can see this is Cabanillas, I think, battling with Zafari. And that's Pires and Del Pino in the mix as well. Lots of battles towards the back of the top 10 also. And that's, I think, Segura getting involved as well as Indra Pubasak. And one of the MP Motorsport cars. That may well have been, who was that in the mix? That might well have been, it might have been not Garfias, it might have been Gravland, I think, who was in the mix there. They work their way out of Lamy Corner and back to the middle of the track now. Back into the complex and back towards the end of another lap here. Now, the first couple of laps are out of the way. This driver just started to settle down a little bit now, just trying to find their groove, find their pace, find the temperature in the tyres, find the grip levels. Just start to settle in here for a few laps here. There goes 55. That was Pingasov in 8th position. See the pit lane there for the pit wall. The leaders then out of the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. Still, it's a 1-2 for Campos out in front. Masson and Braschi have it under control. 1.6 seconds between the top two, and there's a further 2.3 seconds back to the MP Motorsport pair. Boyer ahead of Gilks, then it's Garfias in 6th. Cabanillas in 7th, Pingasov in 8th, Zanfari in 9th, and Del Pino in the next of the MP Motorsport cars rounding out the top 10. So MP Motorsport have got 4 of their 5 cars up in the top 10, which is a pretty good run for them so far. Back in the team's title, in fact, they're actually second at the moment. Actually, they came into the weekend level on points with Campos Racing, but given that Campos have 2 of their fastest men out in front, that will certainly be pleasing them, and that will give them an advantage in the points. And I think the retirements for Masson, I know I've talked about it a few times, but that really will have scuppered any chances for them to try and hold on to that in particular. So they make the way now back towards Aurelia, right-hander that takes them back towards the end of the lap and into the Gancho chicane. We're hoping that they can close that gap in a little bit more, if possible. Just settling down a little bit here. Just running nice and steady. All about now whether Masson can continue to extend that lead and whether Braschi can do anything about it and close him in. Otherwise, they might just run in team formation as our MP Motorsport. See now if there could be some inter-team battles between Ergaard and Boyer here. It's half a second between them as they came out of end of another lap, so that's 4 laps in the books. Fastest lap of the race has gone to Esteban Masson, as you'd expect. And the 2 teammates on that last lap, Ergaard was a couple of tenths quicker on that last lap. Now Nick Gilks is also having quite a strong run. Let's see where he's run so far in this season. He's currently back in 13th in the points, and his best result so far has actually been 6th, and that was in the second race at Aragon. So if he can hold on to this, it'll be his first top 5 finish. It'll be his strongest finish of the season too. So the Canadian, as I mentioned, has got quite a bit of single-seater experience. He's been learning his craft mainly in Formula Ford 1600 around the world, particularly in his native Canada and also in the UK a couple of times, along with his sister Megan. Putting all of that to good use to try and haul the DriveX car into a top 5 position. Some close battles going on, I can see, for 10th on the timing screen. That's between Lamfari and Tassanapol and Prapuvacak, the Thai driver. Leaders getting quite spread out here. First and second maintaining the gap of around about 2.1, 2.2 seconds at this point. As the gap continues to stabilise. We're getting a little bit closer. I think I heard a screech of tyres as well, so one of the MP Motorsport cars may well have locked up a little bit into turn 1 without any smoke. It might have been Boyer actually, because Ogaard's got a slightly bigger lead now, but Boyer's trying to come back at him as they come out through Lamy corner and up the hill back towards Curva VIP. It's that tighter line from Boyer. You can see he's more comfortable just hooking it onto the curve to try and keep close to his teammate. That's for Esteban Masson. This is quite a casual Saturday afternoon drive here in Portugal. Fastest lap of the race, 1:36.005. Clear the fastest man on track by at least 0.4 of a second. Masson certainly banishing all the bad memories from last time out and firmly getting back to where he should be. Francesco Braschi at least 0.4 back on his teammate. And it's now personal best second and third sectors now for Masson, so he's just continuing on. He's not letting up at all. He wants to try and win this race at a canter if he can. Sebastian Ogaard, meanwhile, he's holding on to third ahead of his teammate. And there's 0.8 between the two MP Motorsport cars. They turn their way out through. There's a bit of a twitch of oversteer there as he turned in through the exit of the S's. But that will compromise his exit parabolic. Boyer might sense that. There is Boyer, the young Spaniard who comes into the weekend. Third of a championship. He's had 2 victories so far this year, one at Spa in mixed conditions, another one at Monza. So he's won at a couple of international races. He's now just having a look around at the rear of his teammate because Ogaard doesn't seem very comfortable. He's lost a little bit of pace. The last lap time by, look at sectors this time by, yeah, Boyer was about a tenth and a half quicker, and you can see visibly that the two MP Motorsport cars are about to go into combat here. So I wonder if there's going to be a bit of inter-team rivalry. As Boyer loves that tight inside line through Curva VIP. That slightly better exit. A bit more curb used on the exit there from Ogaard, trying to run out wide as much as he can. Got to be careful, doesn't do that too much, otherwise he'll start to open himself up to potential penalties. There's one driver that I'm quite surprised is not as high as he should be. There's a lock-up for the two MP Motorsport drivers again. It shows how hard they're pushing. Is Javier Segura, because he hasn't won a race so far this year, but he's had a couple of podiums. He's had a third place at Spa, second place at Monza, and a third place at Jerez last time out, but he's back down in 13th place. So really not a fan of the Estoril circuit, and that car not performing how he'd like it to be. I'm sure that might be a mystery, not just to him, but also to Pilot Motorsport. And Alex Pilot was actually here yesterday at Estoril, testing one of his own team cars to try and help his drivers out to get a feel for the setup and get a feel for a bit more pace out of these EUROCUP-3 machines. He's purely only here testing. Double IndyCar champion. Certainly checking in to make sure that all is well at his team. One or two of his cars are doing decently. Technically he's lead driver, in terms of points at least, Javier Segura, quite far down the order, and not as high as he should be. He's the highest placed Pilot Motorsport car in the order appears to be Miron Pingasov, who's up in 8th position. So there is your race leader as we head towards half distance in this first of the 2 EuroCup-3 races here at Estoril. As Francesco Braschi continues to put the pressure on and try and close in on his teammate. The gap is 2.5 seconds out in front. Let's see if there's anything that his teammate can do. The two MP Motorsport cars are in a bit of a stalemate as well for third and fourth. Might not be wheel to wheel, but it's the tension between the two in terms of being that close to making an attack, but being in that range of thinking you're getting quite close and you're there and you're feeling the turbulence from the car in front, but at the same time just not being close enough to make that move, make that lunge, make that dive up the inside or outside to make a pass. You just want to try and set yourself up for a move that can possibly cause the car in front to get a little bit off guard. You can see through that tight, twisty section, Boya's car seems a little more comfortable taking the tighter lines and just hooking itself around the corners, whereas Øgaard's car seems better in the faster corners a little bit, whereas in the slower, more twistier stuff and through the slower sections of the circuit and taking tighter lines, Boya's car seems better. So this is differences in setup between two drivers in exact same cars in the exact same team. Differences in terms of setup concepts here. So Øgaard prefers seemingly the high-speed stuff, or low speed for Boya. Jilks looks pretty comfortable in 5th place as well. 3 seconds ahead of Garfias. Still Cabanillas, Pingasov, Del Pino and Impropuvasak who round out the top 10. And Boya there just got a little closer than he's ever been, actually, up the inside there through Curve of VIP, taking that favoured tighter line as they make their way down towards the Parabolica interior once again. This is on lap 7. Still, Øgaard having to keep a watching brief and keep one eye on his teammate here because Boya's not letting him relax. And a slightly wider turn in to the right hand at Aurelia is certainly going to put him under more pressure. And I think Boya's going to start to make a point here is that if you don't get a move on Sebastian, we're going to overtake you. Yeah, the 2MP Motorsport car's very close up, and that could also benefit this man, Nick Jilks for DriveX, because if these two start fighting, the harder these two fight each other, the easier it will be, first of all, for Masson and Brash to continue making a break, but also for Jilks to start to get involved, and he could be on the cusp of possibly a podium finish, never mind a top 5, but it all depends on how this second half of the race plays out, and whether or not Boya starts to put himself in the mix here to put an attack on Øgaard, because Øgaard looks as though he's got okay pace, but Boya seems a little bit uncomfortable stuck behind his teammate here. And I've got a feeling that car's got a bit of body language, like he just wants to get on with it and get past, because maybe he's got a bit more pace underneath that number 24 machine. But at the moment, Øgaard's forcing him to run at his pace at the moment, and this can only benefit, I'm sure, Nick Jilks. If we look at the sector times for the cars around them, well, Jilks' sector time was matching Øgaard, so he's not actually closing in too much. What he needs is these two to actually start fighting rather than running nose to tail. And Boya, all he can do is get a free throw from his teammate in front. So Masson, meanwhile, out in front, has set another new personal best second sector, and other quicker sectors coming in as well from people too, or improvements from others behind him. Just get the sense Boya's just brewing a move here. He's thinking about a charge here, thinking about a pass that might more serve him to get himself into a podium place here. Øgaard, if he holds on to 3rd place, this would give him his possibly 4th podium of the season. This is battling between two more. This is between, that was Daniel Nogales battling away, I think, with Impropuvasak. That was between Campos and DriveX over 10th. Nogales scrapping away with the Thai driver, as now we see, as the 2 Campos cars move out, it's going to be weapons drawn for the 2MP Motorsport cars, and here comes Murray Boy. He's been setting this one up for several laps, looks to the outside line, Øgaard slots in behind him. There you go, Murray, you've been pressing that one for a while, through you go, thanks very much, chap, and away into 3rd place goes the Spaniard. So, change position at MP Motorsport, Murray Boy shows he has got more pace, and in front he goes. Now the key question is going to be is, now that he's in front, what can he do, if anything, to try and close in to the 2 Campos racing cars that are out in front ahead of him? You can see evidently, though, even in the first couple of corners since getting past, that he's straight through. Here's the replay, and simply in the toe, much better straight line speed, and Øgaard saw that the game was up before they even hit the brakes and slotted in behind his teammate. I thought discretion's the better part of valour. There's no point you fighting. Murray is quicker, so it's just better to let him go and see if he can do anything about the 2 cars in front. And if anything, Øgaard can get the toe from Boya this time by. So out in front, what's interesting is that in terms of best lap times, Brashy has managed to, in terms of best lap times, match Masson's best time of 1:36.005. The best time so far for Brashy is a 36.074. And they're still at least 3/10 quicker than anyone else out in the pack. So Campos, of course, a vastly experienced single-seater squad, particularly in the highest levels of junior single-seater racing, all the way up to Formula 2. And so far, they've got this one under control. Masson from Braschi. Masson hoping for that 5th win of the season if he can hold on for the next 12 minutes plus 1 lap. And this is much better fortunes than he had, of course, at Jerez, when he had that horrendous double DNF that really did just completely eradicate any points lead he had, all the way down to just 7. And the cars in front, and this brought the drivers behind him in the standings really back into play because of that. So Francesco Braschi doing quite well in 2nd place. He's, again, looking at the sector times, he was about a 10th off Masson's 1st sector this time by. Let's look at the 2nd sector, see where he is at this point. And how much more has he been able to close in? 25.3 in the 1st sector for Masson, 25.6, so another 3/10 loss. So that gap is going out further. And you can see also visibly that Boyer has managed to pull away quite firmly from Sebastian Ergaard now that he's through into 3rd place. In fact, looking at the sector times for them, yeah, Boyer was a full 3/10 quicker. He's 4/10 quicker on this lap alone. He was full 3/10 quicker in that 2nd sector just on itself. And now he sees that Ergaard is actually falling into the clutches of Nick Gilks. Garfias in 6th is the 3rd best placed MP Motorsport car. There's Dario Cabanillas in the Santalot machine, the only Santalot racing car in EUROCUP-3. Of course, they've just seen their young charge, Teofil Niel, take a very commanding lights to flag win in the Spanish F4 Championship, so reason to celebrate for Santalot. And can Cabanillas try and add to that feel-good factor by trying picking up maybe another spot? About 1.7 seconds to make up if he wants to pick up P6 from Garfias. He might come under threat also from the leading Polo Motorsport car, Pingasov. There he is, Miron Pingasov. And then Del Pino and Indra Puvasak rounding out the top 10. Indra Puvasak also part of the Campos stable. As Cabanillas turns his way in through turns 1 and 2, still with Pingasov on his wheel tracks. Back here, there is Del Pino in 9th place. That's that 136.6. And everyone lapping all the leading top 10 cars, pretty much all in the 136s. A spread of about, in terms of the, from 4th down to about 10th, spread in lap time, in terms of their best lap time, is only about 2/10 of a second, so very evenly matched in terms of pace. The initial gaps get set when there's the initial battles that go on back and forth in the race initially, and then once they start to set into the groove, it just shows how evenly matched, despite different teams and different drivers and different driving styles and different setups, relatively how well matched these EuroCup-3 cars are, regardless of which team or runs them or which driver takes the wheel. It's certainly proving to be quite popular. And to the Gancho chicane, there is Cabanillas holding on to 7th place. He's the highest placed rookie driver in the field also. So actually this battle here is also for technically the rookie victory, because he's got Pingasov and Del Pino just behind him. So this is 7th, 8th, 9th overall. It's also 1st, 2nd and 3rd. The top 3 in the rookie category. Make their way down the pit straight once more. And they are chasing still Garfias in the 3rd of the MP Motorsport cars. Dario lost a little bit of time to Pingasov, lost about a 10th on that last lap. Pingasov looks as though he's in quite good contention here and a good position to mount an attack shortly. There goes Garfias going through the shot. Now we've got Cabanillas, who did exactly what one of the drivers of Spanish F4 did, but then by contrast, a lock up there from Pingasov's not going to help matters for him either. 8 1/4 minutes plus a lap left to go here in this first EuroCup race. Time flies when a EuroCup-3 race is on. As we head towards the end of another lap, just going to see here if there's anything which Pingasov has to try and pick up another spot here. Just keep an eye on the leaders. Masson and Braschi had a matched 1st sector essentially. Both did a 19.1. Braschi lost another 10th in the 2nd sector and lost another 10th again in the 3rd sector. So 2/10 lost on this lap alone. And Boyer's done what he can to try and close in, but the gap is still 6.5 seconds, and his lap times, he's done a 35.8, so his best lap time is quicker than second place Braschi, but I don't think he's lapping that much quicker than the car in front of him. He lost a tenth and a half on that third sector alone, so it looks as though not much more that Boyer can do at the moment than try and close in. He was about 2 tenths quicker in the final sector. Looking here still at Dario Cabanillas, who has pulled away a few car lengths now to Pingasov in 8th position. 9th for Del Pino and 10th for Inthrapuvasak. So make their way through curve 1 once more on this 15th lap of this first Euro Cup 3 race of the weekend at Estoril. Back towards the Lamy corner, named after, of course, Pedro Lamy, who's quite a established Portuguese racing driver in his own right. He, of course, did his own stint in F1, but also has raced quite a lot in, particularly in sports car and endurance racing. Good to see that the circuit honouring him and his contribution to Portuguese motorsport. So there is Sebastian Ergaard, formerly in 3rd place. Dropped back behind his teammate, who is just there in the front of the shot, Murray Boyer. And Nick Gilks has steadily kept Ergaard in his sights. He just ever so slightly edged onto his tail a little bit more. He lost a 10th in the first sector, lost another 10th or so in the third sector, so they matched each other almost practically by a couple of thousandths of a second in sector 2. So it looks as though in this closing stage to this first race of the weekend that Ergaard's finding a little bit more pace in that MP Motorsport car as we come towards its conclusion. There goes Garfias in 6th position, and then for 7th and 8th it's still between Cabanillas and Pingasov. Pino and Inthrapuvasak still round out the top 10. Del Pino just at the back of shot. We saw there in the 4th of the MP Motorsport cars in the top 10. 5.5 minutes plus 1 lap. The leader is already on to lap 16. As we continue to watch Cabanillas and Pingasov looking at their best results of the season so far. Cabanillas comes into the weekend. Can't figure out where he is in the points. Pingasov, meanwhile, is 15th. Best result for him so far in the season has been 8th position, and that he's managed to pick up 8th position. Yes, twice, and that was once at Aragon and once at Monza. So if he stays where he is, he'll match his personal best for the season. As for Cabanillas, just trying to figure out, Santalock Racing did compete in the last rounds to Cabanillas. Ah, there he is, the Swiss driver. Best result was 10th, so he's actually working quite well at this point. And oh, there's been a change. Forgive me, I'm so stupid. I was looking at the look at my notes, and as I look back up, there's been a change of position. So Cabanillas has now lost out to Pingasov down at the hairpin. I should concentrate more. I know that. But even so, position change. What this might also do now is open up an opportunity for Del Pino to squeeze through into 8th position. Typical, isn't it? When you look away from the screen to try and check something, you look back up and the positions have changed. Right, here's the replay. This is what happened that I missed. That was the running wide under brakes there for Cabanillas. Up the inside goes Pingasov and says, "Thank you very much, Dario." Easy pass all day long. And now it puts Cabanillas under pressure as the Swiss driver has to deal with a rather feisty MP Motorsport car of Bruno Del Pino, the Spaniard. Here he comes, darting up the inside line. Thankfully, I am looking at the screen for this one. Up the inside goes Del Pino, and into 8th position goes the Spaniard at the expense of the sole Santalock racing car. And Santalock only just joined EuroCup-3 from the last round at Jerez, so that's an interesting development for them in terms of being able to join the championship mid-season. Because they've been focusing quite a lot on Spanish F4 this season, and of course their exploits in GT racing particularly. I've known them particularly more for racing Audis in series like the Fanatec GT World Challenge, which is out in a border in Spain this weekend at Barcelona. But Santalock in a few places at once this weekend and just breaking into single-seaters and just seeing what they can do. A good run in Spanish F4 with Teopar Nile, and now of course with Dario Cabanillas dipping his toe into the EuroCup-3 waters. Let's drop back a couple of times here. Here's the replay of the move from Del Pino on the inside of Cabanillas. Nice and straightforward. There was nothing really that Cabanillas could do to fight that. He had no choice but to capitulate, and through he went. So now we see here, Pingasov has pulled the gap quickly enough, and so too is Del Pino trying to get away. Cabanillas holding on to that 9th place. I think he should be safe in these last 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap from Dasanapol and Thrapuvasak. Meanwhile, this man seems pretty safe. He's 5 seconds out in front. Esteban Masson with a much better race than he had the weekend that he's had so far than he's had at Jerez. He's on course for win number 5 of the season. Francesco Braschi keeping him as honest as he can do back in 2nd place, but he's there technically at the very least as a rear gunner. So that if something were to happen, then at least Masson has got a little bit of support. But look at where they are in relation to each other in the championship. Braschi 4th in the points, has taken 2 wins. One at Spa, and last time out at Jerez, Braschi took victory. Masson, of course, has taken wins at Aragon and Zandvoort, and also taken a pair of 3rd places at Monza. And that was improvements from how he started the season, 6th and 7th at Spa. So certainly finding his groove now that he's managed to get himself in good form. And thankfully, he hasn't let the bad weekend at Jerez get him down too much. He's managed to shake himself off like a professional and refocus and get himself back into the game. And after an excellent performance in qualifying that put him on pole by about 3.5 tenths, he's certainly dominated this race from the start and looks on course to pick up victory. So coming on to the penultimate lap of the race, because remember it's 30 minutes plus 1 lap. That means that they can cross the line now, and when they come past next time by, you won't see the checkered flag, but they will get the final lap ball, which means they have got, even if the time will hit 0, they get one more time around the Estoril circuit in order to hold on. Down the pit straight. That is Sebastian Ergaard in 4th place. The Dane doing everything he needs to just hold off the Canadian Nick Gilks just behind him, and Gilks for DriveX. But the best place of their cars, that's for sure. There is Nick, the young Canadian. Fine drive for him. If he can hold on here, it'll be his first top 5 in EUROCUP-3, his best result of the season by far. As we mentioned earlier on, his best result to date being 13th in the points. His 6th, that was back at Aragon at the second weekend of the season. So he can now be pleased with some more progress. Personal best for him in this championship. And the timer continues to tick down towards 0, which it does any second now. So again, remind you, no checker flag this time by. It'll be last lap board out and one more time around the Estoril circuit for Esteban Masson and co before they can cross the line and get the job done. Ergaard trying his best here to hold on to 4th. Now then, there's a 2-second time penalty for track limits for car 13. And that is Daniel Nogales for DriveX. So he, at the moment, is in 11th place. If it stays as it is, it won't affect where he finishes because he's currently about 4 seconds ahead of the next car behind him, which is the 12th place Campos car of the Moroccan Suleiman Zamfari. So Zamfari's far enough behind, but it won't affect his finishing position unless, touch wood, Nogales makes a mistake. There's been no mistakes for this man because Esteban Masson, the championship leader, certainly proving why he's the championship leader. And getting back to the job at hand, which is getting out in front and dominating the race from start to finish. And he's a fantastic young talent, is the Frenchman. And it's the best possible start to his weekend. He got that great start he wanted in qualifying. Just got his head down. Good strong start, defending from his teammate, defending from the 2 MP Motorsport cars on the second row of the grid, particularly from 2 of his biggest rivals in the championship at this point. And now as he heads out of the Parabolica Interior and up towards the right-hander at Aurelia and back towards the Gancho chicane, he's only corners away from securing victory. Looks like Braschi will have to settle for 2nd quite far back. Boyer's back in 3rd, and he took a while to try and get past his teammate. Oops, contact! And that's between 26 and 35. Oh, it's 28 and 35, I think. That would be... that was Sebastian Gravland and somebody else in the mix. That was... I was trying to figure that one out afterwards. It was Jorge Campos and Gravland in the mix. Meanwhile, up to the checkered flag after that drama. Is going to be no drama for this man. Esteban Masson back to winning ways. Win number 5 of the season. He kicks off his Estoril weekend in the best possible way. A perfect lights to flag victory for him and for Campos. And for added celebrations, it's a 1-2 for the team as well. Francesco Braschi takes 2nd. Murray Boyer, after early battles with his teammate, will be pleased with the podium. 3rd place for him for MP Motorsport. It's 4th for Ergaard. Nick Gilks does move out for 5th. He'll be delighted with that. He's also giving a wave to his team. P5, a best result for Nick. 6th for Another of the MP Motorsport cars, Jose Garfias from Mexico. 7th place for Pingasov, 8th for Del Pino, 9th for Cabañelas, and 10th for Tasanapol Inter-Puvasak. I knew he was going to stumble over that at some point. Inter-Puvasak picks up the final top 10 spot. But it is formation flying for Campos and for championship leader Esteban Masson. Win number 5 of the season. And that is certainly something that Campos will have some initial celebrations for tonight. Of course, another race tomorrow. So they can't have too much of a party tonight, but I'm sure they'll at least have something celebratory. And they know the job is not completely done. They've still got a full day tomorrow of a second EuroCup-3 race and also 2 more races in Spanish F4. But there is your race winner, Esteban Masson. Continuing to take another step towards the EuroCup-3 title and, crucially, getting himself properly back on track after the unnecessary dramas of his double DNF at Jerez. There's excellent stuff also, of course, for Francesco Braschi to give himself a 1-2 for the team. Mari Boyer also will have been very pleased with that. That is, alongside his 3 wins, that's his 2nd podium alongside his 3 wins. 5th time he stood on the podium. His 2nd podium finish after having also got a 2nd place at Zandvoort a couple of meetings ago. And did quite well at Jerez last time. We got a 4th place and an 8th, so that's still some solid points. This will now mean that Masson can extend that lead even further. And he'll be hoping, with 25 points under his belt, that would certainly very much increase. So he picked up 25 points, and it was 18 points for Braschi, so that will put him on to... do some active maths here. That will put him on 132. Masson's 25 will put him on to 176. And Boyer's 3rd place, which gives him 15 points, will put him on to 147. But Ergaard also picked up 12 points, which means that Ergaard should still stay in 4th place in the points, because that'll give him 12 points, which puts him on to 156. So it's still the championship lead for Masson, but it will have gone out a little more, given that Ergaard came into the weekend 2nd in points, 7 points back. But of course, he's now lost out 13 points because of this man's victory. You can see by the way he's a little bit of a clap there, that he's certainly delighted with that. And customary celebration, he is delighted, and I'm sure he's relieved as well. Celebrations all round for Esteban Campos and the team. All smiles, a job well done. And also I'm sure they'll be welcoming of Francesco Braschi on top of that too, for securing a 1-2 as well. Mari Boyer also heading over to get the congratulations from his team, as Esteban gets the congratulations from his engineer. Only fitting that Braschi also gets the plaudits from Campos squad. There he is. Top effort from him too. Lights the flag for both of them from 1st and 2nd. And Mari Boyer might well be thinking where he could have been had he not spent half of his race stuck behind his teammate. But ultimately, he managed to get through and hold on for a podium finish, and it's still decent enough points to keep him in relative contention for the championship, keep him in the mix. But Esteban Masson all smiles as he poses next to the EuroCup-3 #1 board. Of course, he'll head up very shortly to go and collect his winner's trophy from the rostrum after what was another excellent drive for the young Frenchman, and well deserved as well. Mari Boyer, of course, putting in a fine effort. And again, we should give a shout out to Nick Gilks. Personal best finish for him in EuroCup-3. And looking back at some of the highlights here, this was Inter-Puvasak's move up the inside, trying to get past one of the MP Motorsport cars. He ran a bit too wide. Lots of 3 or 4 wide action here between, I think, looks like it was Campos, DriveX and co. MP Motorsport in the mix 2. This was somebody else getting run out wide, a bit further back. Couldn't quite tell who that was. One of the other DriveX cars in the mix. There's a shot of 64, which is Nick Gilks. He was battling away 4th and 5th. This was the scrap between the 2 MP Motorsport cars that went on between Boyer and Ergaard. And Ergaard held on for as long as he could, but Boyer eventually managed to find a way through. Initially, Ergaard was able to pull away a little bit, but that wasn't able to happen. Meanwhile, also scrapping of Sebastian Grabland, who was a little bit further back in the top 10. And then this was the pass from Mari Boyer on Sebastian Ergaard, and Sebastian didn't even fight it too much. He realised the game was up, and back into 3rd place he went. And Boyer then managed to pull away by a few seconds and secure himself a podium finish. So one race down for EUROCUP-3 in Estoril. Still one more to go tomorrow. And we of course encourage you all that are tuning in to watch and also to subscribe to the channel as well for more coverage like this throughout the 2023 season and beyond. And very shortly we'll see our top 3 drivers on the podium. As we see the flags flying in the light breeze. It's still, let's just do a quick temperature check because it's still quite warm even though it's quite late in the afternoon, about 5:30 in the afternoon here at Estoril. And yeah, still 31 degrees air temperature, 43 degrees temperature. Still pretty damn hot out there this weekend. And sun shining in beautiful blue skies as it tends to be in part of the world in Iberia. Expecting less from sunny Portugal. Estoril is looking quite superb in terms of its layout, and good to see it still gets regular racing and still regular operation. It was a former Portuguese Grand Prix venue. Has had some great victories here, including, of course, Ayrton Senna, which is one of the main reasons why he was named, has the final corner named after him, the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. As we wait for the drivers to make their way towards the podium. In terms of the celebrations, here is the results. Esteban Masson takes victory by 6.3 seconds in the end for Francesco Braschi in second. Mari Boyer rounds out the podium in third. Ergaard fourth, and Nick Jilks a personal best for DriveX in fifth. Then Garcia sixth. Miron Pingasov wins the rookie class from Belpino and Cabanillas. Then Intrapuvasak after his off climbs back up to 10th. Then Nogales, Zamfari, Segura down in 13th place. A real poor showing for him. Then Emerson Fittipaldi, Campos, Mavlyutov and Gravland after the contact late on. He back down in 17th. There is Mari Boyer, as he was making his way through now ahead of the mix. Here is second place man Francesco Braschi. And some more battles going on here. This was the 3-car of Segura. He was scrapping away, I think, looks like there with Zanfari or Fittipaldi, one of the two. Also there's the Santalot car, we have Cabanillas. More battles further back you can see here. One of the GNS machines, that was GRS, that was Mavlyutov or Fittipaldi by the look of it. I think it might well have been Emerson Fittipaldi. This is the move that I should have been looking at on the screen, and that was the Cabanillas move when he got passed by Pingasov to take the rookie lead. And then moments later it was Del Pino into turn 1 that picked up the pass on Cabanillas to put the Santalot driver down into what was eventually 9th position. There's Francesco Braschi just about out on his own in second place. And there goes Jilks doing a fine drive to put himself into the top 5 as well. He'll be pleased with that. All his experience of racing in the UK and racing in native Canada is certainly putting him in there, and good to see there's a few drivers that are still using the Formula Ford or F1600 formula to pick their way through. It's quite a valuable formula to get through for those just starting in single seaters, but of course going forward, so is the likes of EuroCup-3 and Spanish F4 and plenty of different drivers coming through. And top teams like Campos, of course, finding some very talented young drivers who are going to make their way towards, I'm sure, whether it is F1 or the lower junior, the higher junior ranks of single seaters like F2 and F3, or maybe even careers in GTs or sports cars or prototypes, even the World Endurance Championship, and these days, of course, in the era of the hypercars. It's proving grounds like this that will certainly produce some of the next talent and the future generations of great racing drivers in the mix. And EuroCup-3, of course, doing its best to play its part within that. What is quite a busy junior Formula ladder, of course, with plenty of F4 and F3 level championships to give young drivers more options than ever before to make progress from karting or from any other junior ranks. We're getting ready, I think, for our podium presentations for race number 1 of the weekend here at Estoril for EuroCup-3. And there's some light applause as we now welcome onto the podium in third place Mari Boyer from Spain. In second place it will be Francesco Braschi, the Italian for Campos Racing, but now coming up to the top step for his 5th win of the season, and from the cheers of his Campos team, it is Esteban Masson, the young Frenchman, ensuring a 1-2 for the squad, and he stands atop the top step for the 5th time in 2023. And some applause all round from the Campos team and those of his friends and family and supporters who are down there in team watching on. Also, one of the representatives from Campos Racing, all of us there to pick up the team trophy. And third place trophy, of course, going to Mari Boyer. He'll want to build on that for tomorrow for race number 2. Because then potentially he can do that, so potentially on the second row of the grid, he'll certainly want to do that. Second place trophy, of course, going to Francesco Braschi. And that'll be quite handy for him. Some more points towards the championship for him to hold on. Particularly when he has also had, a couple of wins and 3 more podiums. But the winner's trophy for the 5th time this year goes to Esteban Masson, the Frenchman. Top step at the podium. Plenty of points to go with it. Just posing for the photographs. And I believe before we sign off, we have just about enough time as well. We've got the winning team trophy for Campos as well. More cause for them to celebrate. Holds it aloft. And the French national anthem for the winner. I'm losing there to see Francesco Braschi just helping his team member just take off his hat for the national anthem there, because he almost forgot. So as the drivers head to the top step of the podium, that part 1 of EUROCUP-3 at Estoril done and dusted. It's a 5th win of the season for Esteban Masson. Can he do it tomorrow, or will any of his rivals on the podium with him do anything to stop him? Be sure to join us tomorrow for more action from Portugal in EUROCUP-3. But for more of us here, myself, Scott Woodward, and all of us here in Portugal, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on as we get set for race 2 tomorrow here in Estoril. But until then, bye for now. There's our rookie podium from here in Estoril. Once again, thanks very much for watching for our first part of this weekend's action here in EUROCUP-3. Enjoy the highlights from race number 1 and catch us for more action tomorrow here in sunny Portugal. From all of us here, myself, Scott Woodward, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, and we'll see you for more action for EUROCUP-2, race number 2 from Estoril here tomorrow. Bye for now.